Now, Positively Ernie with Ernie Anastas, a New York TV legend and radio host with great positive stories and interviews.
Thanks, Ernie. You're the best.
And now, here's Ernie.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Nice to have you here. We got another great one for you. I love doing this show. You know that because I talk to people who are really positive, have a lot of good things to share, and we all learn something. I learn all the time. One of the best things that I've discovered, being an anchor for so many years in New York, is you always ask questions, okay? And ask the questions that a lot of people want you to ask. And so I'm going to be asking a lot of questions to my guests. I want you to meet somebody right now. I'm going to put her right on camera because she's a lovely Amilya Antonetti. And Amilya, we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of people know you because you have done so many things. I mean, you've been on WABC radio.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve Harvey and Kelly Clarkson. You've done so many things, and people are probably saying, "Oh, Amilya, I know you." But for the people who don't know you, look, first of all, you have to understand that this woman is outstanding. First of all, say hi to everybody. Okay.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I was so excited all the way in. I was like, oh, this is like talking to a friend. You're like sitting down and just, you guys get to be a fly on the wall as we kind of chit chat, right? I love talking to you.
No, but you are terrific because you have a lot of things to talk about. And some of the people who may not be totally familiar with you, this woman is award winning. She's an entrepreneur. She understands people's feelings. She is what they call a human behaviorist and understands all it. Written books. Award-winning Woman of Decade, author, designing genius, media personality, you name it, that's Amilya Antonetti. She's fantastic. So look, let's talk about, first of all, there's a lot going on in our world today in terms of human behavior. And you know how much I love that. I studied sociology. What is the biggest problem? I'm going to put you on the spot. What's the biggest problem people are facing today when it comes to human behavior? What is it?
That they think they know what's happening. They actually think they know what's happening, and we don't. We only know our perspective of what's happening. And the minute that we share, right, and so I always say a starter statement for somebody is to, in the moment, say, what do you think is happening right now? And take that intake, because most people would say, oh, we're in an argument. And you go, oh, actually, I didn't think we were arguing. I thought I was making a statement, or I thought I was in a discussion. And so for most of the time, most cases, what you think is happening is never what is happening.
Well, try to explain that, okay? I mean, that's an interesting point. Why are we having this problem? What is the issue?
Well, it's the human dynamics.
Yeah.
And so in a personal scenario, like you come home and just got back from work and you're focus in your head and whatever, and you walk by me and I'm like, oh, see, he doesn't love me. I'm not important to him. He didn't even say hello.
Was it always like that, or has it gotten really bad?
It's gotten really bad because we have FOMO now, looking at all of the social media reels where everybody's life looks like a movie. It's all edited, right? And so we see these romantic things, and we see this, all these dynamics of everybody's life is better than mine. And so we then revert back to our childhood trauma. So if your childhood trauma was abandonment, like, so for me, I suffer from abandonment, and you walk by me, even though it's not that you intended for me to feel like you abandoned me, but I'm like, see, he doesn't love me. He's busy doing something else. You're like, I just got home from work. You're unwinding. You didn't even realize that. You may have intended to come back and hug me afterwards, right? And so when we get triggered, which means an emotion rises, when we get triggered, we go back to the story, the old wounded story, which is, you meant to hurt me. You meant to abandon me.
You fall back into that pattern.
And we just do that now at scale. Literally at scale, versus being able to, I always say the greatest skill that anybody can learn is how to regulate your emotions, which means, can I come out of my story and come to neutral?
Good point.
Right?
That's
a difficult skill.
Amilya, you and I talk to a lot of people. And when I love asking the questions, as I pointed out. But when I talk to a lot of people today, they say, it's a confusing time. Information overload, information anxiety, that people are being bombarded. And maybe that's why, to your point, we end up going back to something because, we're just confused. There's just so much going on around us. And there was a simpler time. Maybe it was a little better. Although some people may argue, we always had problems, I agree. But you must agree with me that there is a lot going on right now for people to understand, digest, and feel comfortable about it.
And I think it's about us learning how to have more firmness in our boundaries. Because remember, at the end of the day, we are in control. right? So when people talk about information overload, I'm like, okay, where are you and what are you doing that the information is penetrating? Meaning that, well, information overload, yeah, if you're spending 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours on Instagram or on social media, of course you've been bombarded, but you have the control to put down the phone.
Yeah.
Right? I say the first 22 minutes of your day is critical to determine what the outcome of your life is going to be. Right? And so if I take a look at what you do for the first 22 minutes, I will basically tell you how happy you are, how much money you have in a bank account, and the degree of your relationships.
Okay, elaborate on that. First 22 minutes.
So the first,
when you wake up?
When you wake up,
okay,
right?
Go
So
ahead.
if we are going to take the premise that sleep is rejuvenation, right?
Yep.
That's where we actually rejuvenate. We build our batteries back up again.
Right.
That means we're at the highest energy or the highest frequency when we wake up in the morning. Where we invest that frequency matters more than anything else.
Okay.
And so most people get up and they touch their phone, which
Yes,
means
true.
you took your highest frequency and you gave it to the will of technology. So whatever you see first is amplified by this frequency coming off of sleep, and it's what imprints. Versus you saying, listen, I'm very clear on my priorities, right? My priorities consist of these 3 things. Self, right? Being healthy, the best you can be.
Right.
It could be your children, could be family.
Yep.
It could be how you give and serve the world, which should be connected to some type of revenue generation. It could be community, whatever. It could be faith. And so if those are your priorities, that means your highest frequency gets invested there.
Okay.
So for me, when I wake up in the morning, right, I meditate every morning. Right. So I not only take the frequency from my sleep, I amplify it through meditation,
Got it.
which gives me the
Set
clarity.
up those priorities.
That's
Go
right.
ahead.
I set my intention for the day.
Right.
I say a prayer every day. I make sure that I spend time on me, get my head straight, and then I exercise, walk,
Wonderful.
take my things.
That's why you're a happy person.
Invest with my kids, but but I'm not overloaded
Right.
by information because I protect that first. For me, it's an hour, but 22 minutes of the day.
Yeah.
Which means that's what I'm investing in.
Okay.
And then I have boundaries that I keep in. So yes, I'm on social, but I don't spend more than 30 minutes a day on social.
Got it.
That's it.
Got it.
How
That's
much
a
do I
big
spend?
issue.
30 minutes.
Now, you know what, Amelia? There are a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people who are watching
Yep.
and listening to us
Yep.
and saying, I like what you say, and
Yep.
I'm happy for you that you're able to do this. But for a lot of people
Yep.
who are probably right now saying, you know what, when I get up in the morning, the phone is ringing. Someone's calling me from work. There may be a family situation going on. I have to keep up with things, and there's just a bombardment.
You
of things coming.
trained your life that way.
You trained
You
but if
trained
someone
your
says,
life
how can
that
I
way.
stop that?
Don't answer the phone.
They're controlling me.
No.
You have to answer the phone because it could be something important at work. or something
No,
that's going on.
not during those hours. No.
Early morning.
Right? Because if you're saying, I am available
Yeah.
for whatever it is that you do for work.
Okay.
I am making an agreement between me and work, even if you work for yourself. I have an agreement that I am available, myself personally, from 9 a.m. and I work till about 6 or 7 p.m. because I have clients on the West Coast.
Wow.
That is when I'm available.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you hit me outside that, that means I have to be willing to accept that you're not meeting my boundaries. Right? Now, if you condition people. So if I start at 9 and you call me at 7 and I answer the phone, I just said you have permission to call me at 7 a.m. You don't have permission, right? That time is reserved for my family.
Got it.
That time is reserved for myself. And so you can either be a victim of the world or you control
There's the word.
your word.
There's the
yeah.
word, control.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what boundaries are.
There's a line that says, when you're saying yes to others, are you saying no to yourself?
Which is the biggest sacrifice we have.
Yeah, but
And
it's so easy to say yes to people.
Yes.
Because we fall into that trap and we lose
phone
control.
ringing, turn ringer off. My
Those-
ringers are not even on. So I don't even hear it, right? I have an automatic on my phone that opens up, and every phone has this, tells you what your office hours are. So if you try to call me after, say, 7 p.m., it automatically goes to voicemail. I don't even hear it ring. There's no distraction. I don't hear
Good
anything
for
ringing.
you. This is great.
Right.
You know, your daughter's in the studio with us
Yeah.
here. Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
And I know you're really proud to be a great mom, and you are. And I'm a parent as well. And I hear from a lot of young people, and she's probably agreeing. A lot of young people today are saying, you know what? Based on what you and I are talking about, I wish we didn't have this thing. I wish we didn't have it. I wish we didn't have the internet. A lot of young people are getting fed up with being married and locked in to all of the social media, internet, and all that activity. And it's really creating, as you know, a lot of problems.
Stress and anxiety,
Serious
depression.
problems too. Anxiety, depression, all the bullying that goes on, the misuse of it, virtual kind of things that are happening, AI's coming in. So is it going to get better or is it going to get worse?
Well, I think it has to be our decision if it's going to get better or worse. I mean, AI is here. Yeah. And we can definitely use AI to complement our humanity, right, to make things more efficient. And so I'm all about AI and tech, right? But it has to be used in my life. I'm not going to fit into tech. Tech is going to fit into my life. And when it comes to children and tech, remember, we're still, as the parents, in control. I make sure that my daughter and my son have real face-to-face in real life experience. Tonight, we're going to go see a show. Right now, she may say, I would rather be home on my phone. Well, she didn't get a vote. I bought the tickets. Yeah. We're going to the show.
That's it.
We're going to get dressed. This is what we're doing today.
But a lot of parents feel that they have lost the control, that, many times their kids make the decision, and they don't.
And that's a problem.
Now, that's an old problem.
Right? That's a problem. And I have never subscribed to that. Now, I incorporate in my companies and with my children, I'll be like, here is the thing that we have a move that's coming out. We're going to be moving. Yeah. And so I would love your input on how would you like to do this? How would you do like this? What about your timing? What's going on in your world? What will work best for you? And I take in all of the information and then I make a decision. Okay. Same thing in my business. I'm like, here's something in front of us. I want to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions. But at the end of the day, somebody has to make the decision and be responsible for the decision.
Well, yeah, I like what you say. And I'm sure a lot of people out there are agreeing with you and saying, I'm happy that you have that. I'd like to have it in my life. But, the reality in many ways, too, is that the old Ozzie and Harriet days, okay, that era has changed because a lot of homes, you have working moms and parents, single parenting. There are a lot of different issues that are going on and different lifestyles, and people are trying to figure out, what can I do? So let's try to help those people out.
Sure, absolutely.
Because they're looking for help. Yeah. And I applaud many of them who are working so hard. And I know people like that, who are working so hard trying to take care of their family, trying to be a good parent, trying to teach them, trying to spend time with them. Not to mention, the cost of living today. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It is insane.
So there's a lot of stress, tremendous amount of stress on people. Okay, behaviorist specialist. Tell us how we deal with that in today's world. Right. What do we do? You brought some of it up, but give us a little more detail.
Start small.
Yeah.
Start with the morning routine, first 22 minutes, and start with your last 22 minutes. Because what happens is your brain remembers the beginning and the end. It doesn't remember the middle. So if you intentionally set your morning and your evening with intention, meaning whatever that is that has meaning for you, whether it's you're reading a book, whether you're unwinding with a hot bath, whether a hot shower, you're setting your intention, you're doing a evening wrap up. What's the thing about today that I'm most proud of? What am I looking forward to tomorrow? Like all of those thought processes allows you to create high frequency. If you do that and bookend your morning and your evening, your brain thinks it had a great day.
Okay.
It forgets the middle.
That's interesting.
And so start working from the bookends inward, right? I always tell people that once you get those habits, right, start with the morning routine because that's where your frequency is the highest.
Morning is very important. Very important.
Evening routine sets you for the next day. Right. So I start my tomorrow at 9 p.m. the night before because I use all of my sleep in order to rejuvenate, and I start programming in my brain what I want for tomorrow.
There you go.
So my brain already thinks it's happening.
You write it down?
Oh, absolutely.
Me too.
Absolutely. Write it down.
Every night. I always make a list, and a realistic list. I don't go like 15 things, but I'll do like maybe 4 or 5 things that are really important. And I'm telling you right now that I sleep better because I know that I've got a plan. Plan your work and work your plan.
Yes.
I put it down on paper and I say, I know, because I'm a doer, that I'll get this done. So if you form that habit,
it's a habit. That's all it is, a habit. Yeah. And so is the self-talk, right? Yeah. Work with, if you're trying to build confidence, before you go into sleep, say, what's one thing I'm proud of from today? What's one thing that I did that I'm proud of? I opened the door for somebody. I smiled. I used somebody's name. I made a connection, right? And then say, what am I looking forward to for tomorrow? Because that's how we build hope. Remember, if hope dies, we as a society dies. Yeah. And so you have to say, okay, what am I looking forward to tomorrow? It starts to set the intention. So you set it that night before, you reinforce it in the morning by writing, this is my intention today, the one thing that I want to make sure I get done. And then keep your promise to yourself, right? Make sure that gets put into your calendar management as a top priority, the one promise you made to yourself. Yeah. Because when we have difficulties in our relationships, I always tell you that your relationship with yourself is the mirror for every other relationship. So if you're like, I can't trust people let me down, it's because you let yourself down.
Yes.
If you tell yourself, this is the thing I want to get done today, and you don't do it, then you're conditioning yourself that people are going to let you down because you let yourself down, and therefore that boundary is not firm outside
what
of you.
you're talking about is giving yourself credit.
Yes.
Patting yourself on the back and saying, I did a good job.
Yep.
You know, I'm happy with myself. There isn't enough of that. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people can get negative vibes from different sources. From within your own family, at work, relationships, neighbors, whatever it happens to be. And they allow those bad vibes to stick.
Yeah, and they don't have to. You can take that energy
push them away.
And translate it into positivity. Like on the way here, right? So I was trying to, New York traffic, I was trying to get onto the freeway, right? And you only have a limited amount of time to get on. Okay, it's not like California. They leave you mile. You have a limited time to get on.
Oh, yeah.
And I was trying to get on, and the person was like, absolutely not. You are not getting in. And I was like, wow, I can't imagine what's happening in that person's life. That they are really going to be gung-ho about making sure that I don't get one car ahead of them. So I was like, I smiled, I waved. I'm like, no problem. Have a great day. And I got in right behind them because I could have taken that and internalized it into a negative. Instead, I was like, let me meet this person with compassion and empathy. Something must really be going on in their world that this is what matters. For me, I'm like, this event doesn't matter. I'm not going to give that any value, right? I'm going to give that meaning, but we have to be careful. We give things meaning. I like to give everything a positive meaning, not a negative. And so that's what you have to think about when you're not letting something stick, to say, how do I use that for fuel for the things that do matter to me?
And you know, how important is it to have this attitude, but to hang around with people who think the same way?
Positive.
Because if you're around people, you said the word positive, which is one of my favorite words, you know that. But when you think about the negativity, and if you're around people who are that way, it can influence you.
Oh, sure.
So now what do we do? What do we do to surround ourselves with that kind of vibration to keep us on that even track?
So again, go back to your internal power. You cannot have an argument unless you participate. Can't. Arguments can't happen unless you participate. Negativity can't stick unless you accept it. Right. And so moving yourself away from the energy that's not going in your direction. And when things happen around me that don't meet my minimum standards, right? And trust me, I have family too. And I'm like, that isn't going to be my world. That may be your world. Not welcomed here. And I move away.
You've made that decision.
I move away. Right. When I think gossip is the devil's tongue. When that happens around me, I'm like, you know what? This doesn't feel good to me. And I'm going to remove myself from the conversation, and I'm going to go do something that I do enjoy. But I pull myself right out of the conversation going, this, I'm not participating in. This, I'm not going to be around. And so what happens is you start to set those boundaries that people will know. They'll start to go, oh, she doesn't play that way.
Exactly. You know, I read something not too long ago, Keanu Reeves, great actor.
So good.
I like him a lot. And he had something, and he said, I'm at a stage in life where I don't want to argue with anyone. If someone says 2 + 2 is 8, I say, hey, have a great day. And I can understand that philosophy. I love to get into discussions because it's what I do. But I don't have to get into an argument.
No.
There's a difference.
There is a
You
difference.
can get into a little discussion, and you can respect the person's opinion, and you can say that. Gee, I'm interested to hear what you have to say. But keep it at that even keel. And I think we need to do more of that, because I find, and I know you agree, I find there's a lot of anger out there. A lot of people are just, and some will say for a reason, because there's a lot coming at me all the time.
And you can get into that conversation with going, you know what, it feels to me like you're angry. I just want to check in. Am I correct in what I'm sensing? And for somebody to go, no, I'm not actually angry at all. Okay, it's feeling that way over here. And then to say, what can I do differently right now so that we can have a different response. Right? And so I have a tendency, my kids say that my angry face and my thinking face look like the same face. And so I have to learn to adjust my face because they'll say, are you angry? And I'm like, no. Well, what makes you think I'm angry? They're like, you're frowning. And I'm like, oh, I was thinking. I am thinking. I was thinking. But it allows me to adjust. But if you don't welcome the invitation in to say, let me check what's going on because I'm sensing this is what's happening. And for you to have the opportunity, because I respect you, to have the opportunity to correct me. To say,
that's
no.
good. That's honest conversation.
That's not what's going on.
You know, you've heard the expression, the eyes are the window of the soul. And I believe that. I mean, you and I are sitting here right now, and we haven't forgotten that we're even on the air doing anything. We're just talking. But I'm looking in your eyes, looking at your face, and we are really communicating in many different ways. And a lot of that is missing because the
technology,
phone, the phone, the iPad, whatever it happens to be, and we're not looking at each other. We're not feeling the emotion. We got to get back to that.
Well, you can remember for a lot of the
that.
younger generation, that full presence is threatening.
Sure.
Because they're not familiar
True.
with it.
True.
Especially you can remember we've spent, for our kids while they were in development, some of them spent almost 2 years during COVID away from people.
Sure.
So you have to think about where the development cycle was.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people that were COVID kids who didn't go to school during COVID, that intensity of eye contact and full body presence, right, feels threatening.
Sure
Like
it
they're
does.
like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Well, speaking of that, I did a story recently about how a lot of young graduates today are going into interviews for a job, and they don't go alone. They bring a parent with them. True story.
I know.
They bring
Yeah.
a parent with
Yeah.
them because they really have lost the ability to talk, and they need somebody else to talk for them. That's really sad. And we have to do something to change
We
that.
have to practice.
We
I mean,
do.
I always say, listen, you and I are older, right? And so anytime
We
when
are.
I'm when I'm in Dunkin' Donuts, if I'm in Starbucks, and I see a young person, I make an intention to break a conversation with them. Hi, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
What did you order? Because I know that even that little bit gets them a little bit more comfortable talking to a stranger. So we have to get back to a village mindset, right? Don't just leave it to the parents, right? I mean, I'm a single parent. It's hard parenting, right? I got a son and a daughter, and so I need my community to also help me. So like when you came in, you talked to my daughter. Now, was she uncomfortable? She might have been uncomfortable, but it's an interaction for her. She's practicing and she's practicing. We have to remember that these young people need to practice for real life.
We need to do that.
And we all have to do that.
Yeah.
We all have to do that. Same thing too if we feel like, somebody's having a difficult situation. We have to lean in and go, are you okay? Even if they're not our child. It looks like your suffering is happening here.
Definitely.
Are you okay?
And Amelia, another piece to this is I believe it's important to have a sense of purpose in your life.
Yes.
If you have an understanding of what you're doing and why, that can make all the difference in the world. It gives you the confidence. That line, don't strive for success, strive for significance. Do something that has a purpose and value. And I find that the people who are most comfortable with themselves, like we were just talking, believe that they're doing something that is important. And it could be anything.
Yes.
That really has some value and purpose in life.
And we got to make it smaller
Yeah.
for these young people. I mean, I see the struggle of them trying to figure out what they're going to be when they grow up. And we have to be more honest and transparent. I've had 9 different careers. Right? 9 different careers.
You're amazing.
Right? And so it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to perfect a different craft.
Yes.
When you look at it from, my side, right? Everything that I've done in my career, somehow, some way was connected, but I didn't know that when I was looking forward at it. But people are trying to figure out, what am I going to do for the next 40, 50 years of my life? I'm like, why don't you just figure out what you want to do this year?
Right.
Just figure out what you want to do this year. What would be the measurement for that you're making progress? What would be a goal that if you accomplished it, you would feel good about yourself, and make the goal small. So it gives them the opportunity to move to another career. It's not a life sentence. And we keep thinking that that's what life is. I got to wait. What are you waiting for? I got to make a big decision on my career. Do you? Right. Try this when you're young. Try different things. Try different roles. I would say that hire somebody you wouldn't normally hire. Train them. Lean in. The number one thing people want is mentorship.
Right.
They're looking for somebody to take an interest in them and share your life, what you've learned and your life skills with those other people.
And a lot of this, it can happen in different venues. Certainly home is the center. And if we as parents are able to help our children, guide them, give them the opportunity to have their roots and then the wings to be able to fly and come back whenever they want. That's important. I think our schools have a responsibility. I mean, sometimes, a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't do that in school. Shouldn't do what? I mean, there are some basics of teaching children to have good conversations.
Yes.
And teaching children to have respect for each
Yes.
other. That's important. Our school system. Work, I think, is a very important area. And a lot of companies now are trying to bring around seminars and meetings to bring people together.
Yep,
And
I
have
do it
them
all the
talk
time.
about
I
this.
get invited
You do that.
all
You-
the
you've got
time
your
to
own
come in
company.
and help
Exactly.
people, facilitate those conversations. We call them conversation starters.
Yeah.
How do I get into a conversation where I want to express that I'm not happy about something? How do I get involved in a conversation where I think I might hurt the other person's feelings? How do I get into a conversation where I want to break it off or break up? How do I get into a conversation about I want to quit? So we have to facilitate those conversations. It's a life skill to get into those things, and they're important. But we can't be the people who say, well, the school's not doing this and church is not doing that. Well, there's something that you can do. Don't wait on an institution to do something.
Take responsibility.
Right? I do sleepovers at my house, right? And so I'm that house where everybody comes, and I'm the one who participates. I'm like an overgrown child because I want them to be comfortable with me, so they come to me for the hard stuff. But if you don't come to me for the easy stuff, right, the happy-go-lucky stuff, then you're not going to come to me for the hard stuff. And it's because I'm the adult, I've got to come down to their level. So I'm always asking my kids, what are you listening to? It's always a band I've never heard of. And I'm like, play me a song. Let me see. I go to their concerts.
Good for you.
I expose myself to their content so that I can then have something in common with them. Now, it wouldn't be my first choice. I can't even pronounce half the bands. I mean, we just went to something. It was a hologram. It wasn't even a person.
And you used to know all
I was
all
like,
the
wait a
groups
minute. I'm like,
at one time.
I just paid tickets to see something that's not real on TV. I'm like, what is? They go, this is K-pop. I'm like, okay, but it's still not real, right? And so I have to come to their level and not disapprove of it or not judge it, but to lean in and go, how do I take this experience and make it enjoyable?
Amelia, before I ask you my final question, people who are watching, listening, are saying, I'd like to get in touch with you. Give us, contact information. If someone wants to reach you for various reasons, whether it's for business or whether it's for, having them consult and so forth, tell people where they can reach you.
Yeah, so if you spell my first name, Amilya, Amilya, so Amilya.com is my website, designinggenius.com is my business. You can find me on LinkedIn underneath Amilya Antonetti. You can find me in every social platform underneath Amilya. So just because my spelling is weird on the first name, you can pretty much find me anywhere.
Spell it.
Amilya.
Lya, I like that because I remember that. Okay, now, people know how to reach you. So let me ask you this closing question. And I always like to ask people the same thing. If you could pass along some advice to a newborn child, newborn baby, something that they might be able to hold on to, and at a certain time in life when they can understand, they'll be able to read it and understand it a little better. What would you like to pass along to a newborn?
Oh, I would say 100% to not take it so seriously. I think that if we can learn that if it's not going to matter in 20 years, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. We get hung up on all of these little tiny things and we make it significant. And the reality is it's the least significant things.
Yeah, there you go.
And so I wish I would have told my baby self not to take it all so seriously. Right?
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Carl Sandburg has one of my favorite quotes. When you see a newborn baby, it's God voicing his opinion that the world should go on. So it's an affirmation of life.
Yeah.
And we love children.
Yeah.
And we love you.
Oh, I love being here.
You're
I
terrific.
love
really,
here.
we can go on for another
whatever.
hour.
You're one of my favorite people. I was so excited about coming into the
It's
city.
so good to have you here. Congratulations on all the good things you do. Will you come back again? And talk to
Always,
us?
absolutely.
Will you do that?
Yes.
Okay. So good to have you here. Amilya Antonetti, lovely person, and you are a gem.
Thank you.
We thank you for being you. Okay? Hope you enjoyed today's show. We had a great time, and we're going to do another one next time around. So have a great day, everybody, and stay positive.